Mr.
How are
Raymond,
you
I'm
today?
feeling happy.
Oh, thank you for letting me know, Brandon. I know, Casey. I hope you feel better. I'm sorry you're still sick. Um, let's talk about the test before we talk about anything else. I finished grading all of the essay portion for your exams, and it didn't affect your grades a whole lot. Most of you did as well on the essay as you did on the exam. So I thought of a compromise. Since we don't have a lot of time to be doing corrections during class because it's we got a lot to do in class. I don't want to sacrifice any of our time in class to be doing corrections or be giving you a lot of homework out of class. So I decided to come up with a solution. What we're going to do then was we're going to do extra credit. So instead of going back and fixing what you did on the test, I'm going to be giving extra credit for the test. It'll be very similar to how the corrections would have gone. There's still going to be um, essay questions, but they're going to be extra credit added on to your already score. So you're not starting off at zero. You're going to be starting off with whatever your score was for the test. I'm probably going to be giving like 5 questions. Each question will be worth about 20 points each. So you can hypothetically redo and still get to that 100 like I promised that you could, but it is going to be a lot harder. We're going to be doing it outside of class. Like I said, it is homework, but it's going to be voluntary. So you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But if you got 100, you can, I guess if you got 100, you don't really need to do any extra credit. But it's not going to be added anything above 100. So let's say, for example, that you had a 70 on the test and you did 50 bonus points of work. I'm only going to give you 30 points, right? I'm only going to be giving you to 100. You're not going to get above 100 for the test. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow because I just thought of it today. We had a meeting with the other science teachers and I like that idea the most. So I'll be typing up those questions probably tonight to give you them tomorrow, and you'll have a couple of days to get those before the end of the week. Okay, we'll talk more about it tomorrow. I just wanted to go ahead and let you guys know that I have been thinking about it and that there is going to be something for you to do to raise your grade if you're worried about that. Okay, so like I said, we'll talk more about it later. Thank you for that, Nora. I'm so glad you said that. Hello, Hugo. Hi, Casey. Thank you, Timothy. Also very nice. Thank you for letting me know, Gila, that you're back. I will be able to do that, Kaylin, later after class. All right. Okay, so looking at our big slide, we're looking at common ancestry today. We got updated vocabulary, we got new CK through 12 readings, new key points, new essential questions. So we're really focusing in on, now that we've moved past natural selection, we're going to be moving into the evidence for evolution. Now, before we get into the evidence, we have to start kind of figuring out how we represent evolution. We talked about it a little bit during taxonomy, so we're going to go back and revisit phylogeny, and then we're going to move forward with evidence, specifically with fossils tomorrow. So today we're getting ready for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the do now. Now, the do now, what I'm wanting you to do, this is a star question. I'm wanting you to pick an incorrect answer and explain why it's wrong. So again, I'm not looking for any right answers. What I'm wanting you to do is to pick a wrong answer. Tell me why it's wrong. Okay? So can I get someone to come off mute and tell me what it is that we're doing for our do now?
Yes, it is the same right here. Now we need to pick an incorrect answer and explain why is it incorrect.
Okay, thank you, Brendan. All right, here we go.
Mr. Raymond, I think you signed off.
Thank you, Denise. And Brandon, you're close. You're on the right track, but you're not quite there yet. Thank you, Brandon. Again, make sure you're giving me the wrong answer. What I'm looking for is an incorrect answer to the question. It's okay, Grace. Thanks for being here. All right. So let's talk about this. I like asking for wrong answers because it helps you kind of narrow down what the right answer is. So, a lot of you were correct in the sense that you were wrong. What that means is I'm looking for incorrect responses. What we got here, we got some kind of volcanic island with two types of trees. They don't interbreed, even though they grow very close to each other. So what fails to occur? A lot of you are correctly pointing out that C would be the correct answer to this question. Because they don't interbreed, there's no gene flow, right? There's no genes going between them. So C would be the correct answer to this problem. However, my question was, I want you to pick an incorrect response and explain why it's wrong. So far I'm seeing a lot of people say that C, which again is the correct answer for the star question, but is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a wrong answer and to explain why it's wrong. Anybody think they can do that?
All right, I'll try.
Go for it.
Now, I think C is wrong because it doesn't mention about the gene like flowing between the two species that does not flow with the gene.
Well, if you remember from what I just said a second ago, I said the gene flow is not happening, right? Which means that it's the correct answer to the problem. But what I'm asking is to
Oh,
give me an incorrect response besides C. So Zarya said D because they don't interbreed, right? Very good. Mutations don't matter if they're not interbreeding, right? There's no, it doesn't really go along with whatever they're talking about. It doesn't make sense, right? It's a bad answer. Get rid of it. So very good, Zarya. D would be one you get rid of, and it's because mutations don't make any sense for that question. So again, what I'm trying to get you to do is to read the question very closely and then rule out answer choices. So the question specifically states that even though they're close together, they don't interbreed. So what fails to occur? So mutations. Mutations would be good, like if they were interbreeding and they produce kids, right? The genes would be mixed up, maybe have mutations. Maybe there's just mutations that happen because of radiation or mistakes during the cell cycle, whatever. So that's not answering the question, right? That's out of scope, not involved. So D would be not something you can get rid of. Thank you, Faye. Yeah. So the reason I asked it was because I wanted you to kind of think a little bit extra hard. Because you read in the question, you get the answer, that's fine. But what I want you to do is to pick wrong answers and then tell me why they're incorrect. Now, does anybody think they could explain why B is wrong?
I think I can.
Go for it.
It's wrong because natural selection is wouldn't really happen because like the adaptations or like mutations wouldn't really affect both the species because they're not rebreeding like and creating like passing on those mutations.
Okay, so specifically with natural selection, why do you think that's not in play right now with these two different species?
Because since they both won't interbreed, if one gets an adaptation, then it still won't be passed on because they won't interbreed. Therefore, that gene will just basically be lost.
Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation, right? I like that. So the point here is that I'm trying to get you to think about these concepts in a way that's more than just a diagram, right? So here's what we kind of saw yesterday with gene flow and genetic drift. So gene flow, as we see here between these two species, we have genes going from one population to another, right? There's genes flowing. And then genetic drift is when there's some kind of chance event that really disrupts the genetic profile of a population. So we don't really have gene flow happening because the question clearly states that they're not interacting with each other, right? And genetic drift is not a factor because, let's see, what was the answer choice for that one? It just says genetic drift, right? It doesn't really say anything about some kind of chance event happening that would ruin or eliminate some genes from a gene pool, right? And as far as we know, there's no predators. It doesn't mention any kind of natural resources that could cause competition, so we don't know if natural selection is in play. But we do know for sure that since they're not interacting, that gene flow is going to be the right answer because it's not happening. All right, so that was kind of tricky because of the double negative. I was going to see if I could wake you guys up, or I guess not wake you up because it's the end of the day, if I could get your eyes to be a little bit more opened. But okay, let's keep going. Oh, I wanted to quickly remind you guys that a lot of you had said that you're having trouble with stream, so I did go ahead and create that YouTube channel. Again, the link for the playlist is on the general tab. I can share it for you if you'd like to send me a message, but there is a YouTube channel now for our classes. It's not monetized. They're all unlisted videos, so don't be thinking that I'm like promoting myself or anything. This is just another way of you getting to watch the classes because I know a lot of you are having trouble with Teams. All right? All right. So can somebody read the objective for us?
All right, I'll just do it once.
Mm-hmm.
Students will be able to describe various types of evidence for common ancestry, including fossil record.
Thank you. So as I said at the beginning of class, we're going to focus in on fossils next time. Today we're really looking at common ancestry to make sure that we understand what that means. So I've got a real quick PowerPoint, and then we're going to head into some guided practice. I know that I've been talking a whole lot the last couple of days, so I'm going to try and limit myself. I purposefully went to this PowerPoint and cut out as much of it as I could so that I'm not giving you a whole bunch of unnecessary information. Okay? All right. So thank you for reading that, Brandon. Can I get somebody else to read this for me?
Can I read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What is a common ancestor? An individual or species that was alive in the past. Two or more groups of organisms descended from.
Thank you. So we have looked at this sort of thing before. If you remember back in taxonomy, we were looking a little bit of, I mean, it was mostly classification, but we kind of touched on evolution. So what we're looking at is how these things kind of came to fruition. So we talked about the finches, right? We talked about the finches a whole bunch and how they have all these different sizes of beaks, right? It stands to reason that they all didn't have a bunch of beaks at the beginning. At the beginning, there was probably some like early bird ancestor, and then all of these birds adapted to their environment. They started to get different beak sizes, and they can all kind of trace their origins back to that original bird, right? So that's what it means by common ancestor. So even though those birds have different sized beaks, they probably have an ancestor way, way back that they share because they all descended from it. Okay? So can I get someone else to read what is a phylogenetic tree?
A phylogenetic tree, a tree that shows relationship between different species and populations.
Thank you so much. Now, a lot of this hopefully looks familiar. This is a cladogram. I showed you something like this before, also called a phylogenetic tree, and a dendrogram. They're all kind of different words that kind of show the same thing. They are very specific to specific things, but for the purpose of the star, they're all going to more or less be the same. Oh, 1 second. I got to add somebody to the class. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do, even though you can't, because you can't circle anything with where you are, but if you can in the chat box, tell me where, I guess you wouldn't be able to do that either. Never mind. I was going to show you. So the most recent common ancestor from salamanders and frogs. So you look at the cladogram, you look to see where they are, and then right there, where that red circle is, that is where you have a common ancestor. So it's not named. We don't say what it is. But a long, long time ago, there was an organism that existed, and then depending on the environment, they adapted to different environments, right? So the salamanders adapted to their environment, the frogs adapted to theirs, and over time they became more and more separate. Again, this is very similar to the thing that we saw with the polar bears. A long, long time ago, there was like probably some brown bear, and then it kind of shifted. It becomes the polar bear and then the grizzly bear, right? They're two different species, but they have a common bear ancestor. Okay? So, does anybody have any questions about that? It's pretty standard, right? Looking at common ancestry, you kind of see where the branches kind of diverge, and that's where they share a common ancestor. Okay, keep going. So, based on this tree, which is the most closely related to birds? So again, you want to find birds, and then tell me A or B. So in the chat box, let me know, what is more closely related to birds, crocodiles or turtles?
Can I just answer it?
Well, I'm going to wait for the chat box, see if we can get some answers going in first. I'm seeing B, turtle, A, crocodile, lots of crocodiles. A, crocodile. Okay, does anybody want to volunteer and say why they think it's crocodiles?
Maybe.
Go for it, Brandon, if you know.
I think it's crocodiles because like if crocodiles have sharp teeth but turtles don't, that means the crocodile can eat the turtle.
It sounds like you might be guessing. The answer is already given to you in this tree. How about Destiny? Do you want to give us a shot?
Maybe because it's connected by the lines, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you. Perfect. That's exactly the right answer, right? So you see that along this line is where the birds are, and there's a little branch here with crocodiles. So crocodiles and birds are very close to one another. You look at turtles, turtles are way over here, right? So what that means is that even though turtles and birds have a common ancestor, which would be way down here, crocodiles are a lot more closely related to birds than to turtles, right? So this is not like you having to really think about, okay, well, birds got feathers and crocodile got teeth, right? That's a lot of thinking. You don't need to think that hard. the evidence is shown to you right here, right? We've got this tree. We can see that these have a very close common ancestor, whereas these have a much, much more distant ancestor. So we'll show you in a little bit, probably tomorrow, that you can also trace time through these cladograms, but for now, we're just looking at how close they are. Right, this is super close, very closely related. These are much further away, much further related. All right, very good. Now, based on this tree, which is most closely related to lizards? So in the chat box, let me know. A for crocodiles, B for mammals. Which of these is most closely related to lizards? Getting some crocodiles.
Hey Google, play.
A crocodile. I love that crocodile emoji.
Hey Google, turn it down.
All right, very good. So how about, since I can hear you, Brighton, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So I think it's crocodiles because lizards and snake, like there's three separate branches that are originally come off the blue section, and the lizards and crocodiles are on the same branch.
Very good, excellent. So just like Brighton said, right here's lizard, and right next close with snake, right? They're very closely related, but that's not the question's asking. So you go down here, and you see, okay, here's a common ancestor for lizards, crocodiles, and birds, and snakes, I guess. All these have a common ancestor, so that's right there. Then you go to lizards and mammals. It's much, much further down, right down here. So they do share a common ancestor, but it's much further away. So this one is a lot closer to lizards than this one is, right? Does that make sense? So therefore, lizards and crocodiles more closely related than lizards and mammals. It's relatively simple. It's not a hard concept, but I did want to make sure that we spend some time nailing it down because these are going to be easy points on the star. I think of the 10 or so stars I've taken, I think I've seen it on just about every single star, something like this. So it's not a hard concept to master. They're looking at it, you can see how closely related they are. Not too difficult. All right, so crocodiles. So two ways we can tell groups probably share a recent common ancestor. One is through biogeography, which again we're going to talk more about tomorrow. When species that are very similar live near each other but are separated. So we saw with the Galapagos Islands that the finches were all kind of in that same area, but based on where they were, they had different adaptations. Number two, similar nucleotide sequences. When the DNA of two different species is similar. So like I mentioned with wolves and dogs, right? How like 99% of their DNA is the same is because only recently, within the last, I don't know, 15,000 years or so, have they accumulated those new traits that make them cute, right? But for the most part, they have all the same DNA. So I know we haven't talked about DNA a whole bunch, but I hope at this point in your education you understand that there is a genetic code, right? There's DNA sequences. That sequence determines proteins that more or less create you, who you are, whether you have black hair or brown hair, long bones or short bones, whatever, right? It's all depending on that DNA code. So which two organisms are most closely related? You have 1, 2, and 3. So which two of those are the most closely related? Let me know in the chat. You've got 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, or 2 and 3. Hugo is saying 1 and 2.
Sir, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen the movie Gattaca?
It's been a long time, but I have seen it.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think even when I was in high school, they showed Gattaca as like an example of genetic modification. We'll get there when we talk about genetics.
Ooh.
All right, I'm seeing lots of 1s and 2s. Very good. Since you already spoke, Hugo, do you want to explain why 1 and 2 are so closely related?
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I would say 1 and 2 are closely related because they have at least like different like letters, you know? Because if you check from like 1 and 3, they have so many different ones, and like The least different is probably 1 and 2.
Very good. So if you look at 1 and 2, we got same, same, same. Right around here is when we see something different, right? Instead of GCA, we have CCA. So there's a one difference right here. Only one, what's called nucleotide difference. All these other codons, which are sets of 3 nucleotides, which again, don't be too overwhelmed. We'll talk about it in genetics. The codons are more or less the same except for that last codon. And then number 3 is very different from both of them, right? So they all share the same first one, but the second set, different, right? So 1 and 2 are the most closely related things. So we can use DNA to kind of trace back similarities. So we're going to talk about fossils tomorrow because you can also use the fossil record to determine how closely related things are. So fossil record, biogeography, DNA sequences, these are all evidence that we use to support the theory of evolution. So again, evolution is based on the things that we see, right? Science, part of science is trying to make sense of the world around us based on the evidence that we have. So the theory of evolution then is supported through various lines of evidence. Fossils, biogeography, and DNA sequences are some of the biggest ones. We're going to talk about more of that tomorrow. Today, I just wanted to focus in on common ancestry, which I think we did pretty well with this chart. Now let's move on to our independent practice. I'll stop sharing that. And I'm going to start resharing this.
Wait a minute, is it the independent practice, the one that has that blank paper on it?
I don't know if it's blank. It should have stuff on it. So there's a set of notes there, and there's also this worksheet. So it says Intro to Common Ancestry. I think it's there. If it's there, give me a thumbs up in the chat just so I know that I attached the right thing, because I think we all know sometimes I don't do that correctly. But if you see this in your assignments, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. This is going to be our independent practice. You'll notice that it's the same kind of cladogram that we've been using. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Thank you, Kaylin. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Grace. All right, perfect. So, like I said, I wasn't going to talk too long today because I wanted to give you plenty of time to work. So, this is not too difficult. It's very, very simple. It's very similar to the thing that we were just doing, but now you're going to be doing it by yourself. Okay? So, I'm going to give you a little less than 20 minutes. That way we have time for our exit ticket. I haven't posted it yet because some people have been jumping to it pretty quick. So I saved it for class time. I'll post it here in a minute. But I wanted to give you some time to work on this. And then in about 15 minutes, we're going to move on to our exit ticket. Okay? All right, here we go. Whoop. All right. And please, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Sir, when is this due?
So this is due tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, cause my Teams isn't working and it's not letting me type.
You can always use a Google Doc, or worst comes to worst, a piece of paper. Just take a picture of it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's write this down. So I have been getting some questions about that with the Word docs and stuff. Please always know that the most important thing is that you're getting your work done, right? I don't want you to get behind. So if you ever find yourself fighting against that Word doc, just write down your answer on a piece of paper. Or like I like to do, I like to go to Google Docs. So before I came here, we had a lot of Google stuff, like we used Chromebooks, and everything was on Google Docs. You know, it's not doesn't cost any money, it's not complicated. You just kind of use it as a regular Word doc. So again, worst comes to worst, you can always write your answers on a piece of paper or on a Google Doc or create your own Word doc. Right, whatever you need to help you get your stuff done quickly and efficiently, because I just don't want you to get behind. Right, as I'm sure that you've seen at so many weeks of school that there's just so much to do. The last thing you want to do is put something off to the last minute. Okay?
Sir,
Uh-huh.
for the do now, what do you mean by circle one? Like
Oh
choose
yeah,
one, you
so
mean? Or
circling might be kind of difficult, but if you, like I said, if you do write down your answers, you can always use that and just circle those on a piece of paper. Or if you're using a Word doc or Google Doc, you can always create a circle, like insert a drawing
mm-hmm.
that way.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wait, I don't get some parts of the assignment.
Like what?
One says, "What are two ways we?" and it stops like right there.
Oh, that's weird.
And then I
What number?
put, like the last part.
But what number?
I don't think it has a number. It doesn't have a number. It just says we are two ways we. It's like it at the very bottom with the AAT, the last do not practice that we did.
Oh, the do now.
It was like, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the
I don't know how
assignment.
to explain it, but it's like in the middle between the tree and then the last do not with the letters.
Hmm. Did I put the wrong one? Maybe I put the wrong one.
You want me to take a picture and send it to you?
Yeah, that'd be helpful because I'm not 100% sure what it is that you're looking at. You can ask Destiny. Either type it or come off mute.
Okay, so in the assignment where it says to label C, we can't label it on the picture. So do we write it beside it, or?
Yeah, that'd be the easiest thing to do.
All right.
Okay, Alan, let me look at this picture. Oh, okay, the notes. The notes are really just to help you follow along. It's not necessarily part of your assignment.
I thought it was like the assignment.
No, they're notes. They're just to help you organize your information. The assignment is the worksheet, the thing with the tree on it. Yeah.
Okay. What about the very top ones? The ones with the birds? That's like the notes too?
Mm-hmm.
Then when we're done, we turn it in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, try as hard as you can to get it done before the end of class. I mean, the assignments are not difficult. They're really they're meant to be finished by the end of class. I've just been doing a bad job of giving you enough time to work, so I apologize for that. Whoop. Second time I did that, I'm sorry.
Sir,
Mm-hmm.
can you go back to the slide where it's talking about the two ways you can tell the groups?